In the distant future, far from the dust of Earth, the galaxy had forgotten humanity. To the alien races that now ruled the stars, Earth was nothing more than a distant legend, a tale of a species that had once lived, but was long lost to the chaos of war. The records had been erased, the truth buried under layers of time. Only a handful of scattered whispers remained, and they were dismissed as myths. The galaxy had moved on, and humanity was nothing but a footnote in the grand story of the universe. The Arcanans, the dominant species in the galaxy, stood at the top. Their technology was unmatched, their empire vast, and their arrogance boundless. They had conquered planets, destroyed enemies, and erased any trace of humanity's existence. They believed that the extinction of humankind had been inevitable. After all, they had seen the destruction wrought by humanity's own wars. The once mighty species had vanished, leaving nothing but ruins behind. But on the edge of the galaxy, an ancient team of explorers made a discovery that would change everything. Led by Captain Rylan, an experienced navigator from the planet I-4, the team was tasked with investigating the long-forgotten remains of Earth. For centuries, Earth had been avoided, a place of dangerous storms and unstable terrain. But a new mission had been issued, one that could unearth the secrets of an ancient world that had been erased from history. The team consisted of beings from several different species, Ivorian explorers, a few Exarn soldiers, and even a pair of silent Khazar, known for their stealth and unblinking patience. Their mission was simple: to explore Earth's ruins and collect any valuable technology or information they could find. The galaxy was always in need of new discoveries, and Earth had remained unexplored for far too long. As the explorers descended through the atmosphere of the forgotten planet, the landscape below was nothing like any of them had seen before. It was barren, dry, and covered in ancient scars. The cities were little more than skeletons, half buried in the shifting sands, their once grand buildings now crumbling with age. Yet there was something hauntingly familiar about the place. The wind carried a strange echo, a soft whisper that seemed to call out from the past. Captain Rylan looked down at the vast expanse of Earth, feeling a strange weight settle in his chest. Despite the damage, despite the silence, there was a sense that the planet still held secrets, secrets that were waiting to be discovered. The team landed near the ruins of an ancient city. It was one of the last remaining structures from Earth's past, untouched by time, and yet it seemed to pulse with life. The explorers stepped out of their ship, their boots crunching on the dried earth. The air was thin, filled with the scent of decay. But there was something else, a strange energy that seemed to hum beneath the ground. "What is this place?" Sarn, the soldier from the planet Lorm, asked. His voice carried the same uncertainty that was felt by everyone present. Raylan looked around, sensing something deeper at work. "We'll find out soon enough," he said, his voice steady. But even as he spoke, a sense of unease gripped him. There was more to Earth than they had been told. As they ventured deeper into the city's ruins, the explorers stumbled upon a hidden underground vault. It was ancient, its entrance barely visible beneath the rubble. The vault's surface was covered in strange symbols, symbols none of them could recognize. Yet, despite the lack of understanding, there was a sense of urgency in the air, an unspoken feeling that this vault was important, that it held something crucial to the story of humanity's fall. Captain Raylan nodded for the team to approach. "Open it." The vault door was massive, and it took the combined strength of several team members to pry it open. As the door creaked and groaned, an eerie silence filled the air. The darkness inside seemed to swallow them whole. But Rylan and his team stepped forward, guided by the dim light of their scanners. Inside, the air was thick, heavy with the scent of old machinery. In the center of the room lay an array of strange devices, some familiar, others unrecognizable. There were rows of metallic cabinets filled with ancient data disks, and in the center, a strange device pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. The walls were lined with cryptic symbols, much like the ones outside, and it was clear that the vault had been built with a purpose far beyond mere storage. "What is all this?" Raylan muttered, stepping closer to the pulsing device. It seemed to beckon him, its strange energy drawing him in. The Xarn soldier, wary as always, looked around nervously. This isn't just technology. It's something else. Something dangerous. Despite the soldier's warning, Raylan approached the device. He didn't know why, but something about it felt familiar, almost as if it was calling to him. He reached out, his fingers brushing the surface. A sharp hum filled the air, and the device came to life. Lights flickered, and a low rumbling sound echoed from within the vault. The ground beneath their feet trembled, and a bright light burst from the device, blinding them all. For a moment, everything was chaos. The air crackled with static, and the walls seemed to vibrate with a strange energy. Then, as quickly as it had started, the light faded. The vault fell silent once more, but this time, something was different. The explorers felt it in the air, a shift, a subtle change. They turned to look at one another, unsure of what had just happened. "What did we just activate?" The Xar whispered, his voice low, almost fearful. Raylan didn't answer. He didn't need to. He had a feeling in his gut that something had just been awakened, something that had been hidden for centuries, waiting for the right moment to rise again. As they prepared to leave the vault, the team had no idea what lay ahead. They had uncovered something far beyond their understanding. And soon, the galaxy would learn that humanity was far from gone. The explorers had just opened the door to a new chapter in the story of a forgotten species. The underground vault lay still, its secrets hidden for centuries, waiting for the right moment to be uncovered. After the strange activation of the device, the team stood in uneasy silence, processing what had just happened. The air around them felt thick with the weight of ancient knowledge, knowledge that had been buried, forgotten by all but the Earth itself. As they began to gather their bearings, Captain Raylan couldn't shake the feeling that they had stumbled upon something far more important than they realized. There was an undeniable energy now pulsing in the air, as if the vault itself was alive, watching them, waiting for something. Raylan motioned for his team to move forward, despite the uncertainty hanging in the air. The vault, with its strange symbols and ancient machines, beckoned them deeper. The walls were lined with rows of metallic cabinets and ancient consoles, some of which looked as if they hadn't been touched in millennia. Yet, despite the passage of time, everything felt strangely intact, preserved almost as if the vault was designed to keep its contents safe for a reason. The explorers spread out, each one examining the items with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Xarn, the soldier, was the first to find something truly remarkable. He was standing before a small, seemingly ordinary console, but as he reached out to touch it, the device sprang to life with a soft, whirring sound. A holographic map flickered into existence in front of him. The map was unlike anything they had seen before. It showed not only the Earth, but other planets scattered across the galaxy, most of which were uninhabited or thought to be uninhabitable. But what struck Xarn most was the way the map seemed to connect these planets, forming an intricate web of lines that spanned the galaxy, like a hidden network waiting to be unlocked. This isn't just a map," Xarn muttered, his voice tinged with awe. "It's a guide, a blueprint for something much bigger." Captain Raylan approached, his eyes narrowing as he studied the map. The lines that stretched across the galaxy weren't random. They were purposeful. They pointed to locations that had been completely forgotten or erased from history, places that, according to all known records, should not exist. His hand hovered over the console, uncertain whether he should activate it, but something in his gut told him that this was the key, the beginning of something important to them. "The human legacy is not lost," the voice said. "It is hidden in plain sight, scattered across the stars, waiting to be reclaimed." Raylan's heart raced. "What is this?" he whispered to himself. The voice continued, its tone unyielding. Humanity's downfall was not an end. It was a beginning. The war that scattered your kind across the galaxy was only a part of the plan. Now the time has come for the survivors to return. Activate the sequence. The legacy will be revealed. The room seemed to pulse with energy as Ryland stared at the map. This was no ordinary relic. It was a beacon, a call to arms. Humanity's disappearance had been no accident. They had hidden themselves, not out of fear, but out of necessity. They had planned for their return, and now, it seemed, the moment was upon them. Ryland turned to the rest of the team, his mind racing. The Arcanans, the galaxy's most powerful empire, had thought humanity was gone. They had believed their conquest was complete, their rule unchallenged. But now, humanity was returning, not as a scattered, weak race, but as a powerful force ready to reclaim its place among the stars. "We need to explore further," Ryland said, his voice firm. "There's more here, I can feel it. This vault isn't just a storage chamber, it's a key." The explorers gathered around him, their expressions a mix of disbelief and excitement. They had come to Earth looking for technology, but what they had uncovered was far beyond their expectations. They had found a roadmap to humanity's forgotten empire, a legacy that had been hidden for generations. The team began to search through the vault with renewed determination. It didn't take long before they discovered something else, an old rusted panel hidden beneath the floor. They pried it open, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside, they found a collection of data crystals, each one labeled with strange symbols that none of them could read. But as they carefully examined the crystals, they realized that they weren't just ordinary data storage devices. These crystals contained something far more powerful, human knowledge, lost to time but preserved in a way that no one had ever imagined. "These are human records," Sarn said, his voice filled with wonder. "A history, a story, preserved for centuries." Ryland carefully picked up one of the crystals, feeling its weight in his hand. He knew that whatever was contained inside, it would change everything. The human race had not simply disappeared. They had hidden away, waiting for the right time to reemerge. And that time was now. As they continued to search through the vault, they uncovered more and more artifacts. Ancient blueprints, technologies that had been thought to be impossible, and records of a civilization that had once been the dominant force in the galaxy. They were all fragments, pieces of a larger story, but together they formed a picture of a species that had never truly disappeared. But with each discovery, the team grew more anxious. The galaxy had long since moved on from humanity's legacy, and now the question lingered in the air. What would happen when the rest of the galaxy learned the truth? Would they welcome humanity back, or would they view them as a threat, an ancient power returned to reclaim its former glory? "We need to take this information back," Captain Ryland said, his voice steady but filled with urgency. "The galaxy needs to know what we found. Humanity is not gone. We're still here, and we've been waiting for this moment." Zarn nodded, his face grim. "But we can't trust the galaxy to accept us. We've been forgotten, and now we're a threat to everyone who thought they had won." The Tsar, who had been silent until now, stepped forward. "They will fear us. They will try to stop us, but they won't understand what they're dealing with. Humanity's legacy isn't just a history, it's a power that has been hidden for far too long." Ryland looked around at his team, their faces filled with determination and uncertainty. The galaxy had forgotten humanity, but humanity had not forgotten the galaxy. It was time to rise again. The explorers gathered the data crystals and prepared to leave the vault. But as they made their way back to the surface, they knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. Humanity had been lost, but now they were returning, and nothing would be the same. A high and pleasewrit in a form of long paragraph. The galaxy had known peace for centuries. Empires rose and fell, but the dominance of the Arcanan Empire remained unchallenged. The stories of Earth and its once great civilization had long faded into myth. Humanity, once a powerful and ambitious species, was now nothing more than a whisper in the histories of the galaxy's current rulers. Most believe humanity had vanished, lost to time, and the destructive wars they had waged. But what the galaxy didn't know was that the seeds of humanity's return had already been planted, and it was only a matter of time before the forgotten species would emerge again. Captain Raylan stood at the helm of the ship, staring out into the void of space. The galaxy stretched before him, a vast expanse filled with worlds both familiar and unknown. The mission to uncover humanity's legacy had been far more than just a discovery of old artifacts. It was a revelation that sent ripples across the galaxy, and with each new piece of information they uncovered, it became clearer that humanity's time was not over. It was about to begin again. Raylan had led his team of explorers back to their ship, the data crystals containing the lost knowledge of Earth's past safely stored. But the discovery wasn't just about ancient history. It was about power, power that humanity had hidden away, knowing that one day it would be needed to reclaim their place in the galaxy. The secrets they had uncovered were more than just records of a civilization. They were blueprints for rebuilding a lost empire. The technologies, the forgotten weapons, the strategies, all of it pointed to a single truth. Humanity had planned for its resurgence, and the time had come. As the ship moved further from Earth's orbit, Raylan could feel the weight of what they had discovered. The galaxy would not welcome humanity back with open arms. The Arcanan Empire and other powerful factions that had risen in humanity's absence would see their return as a threat. The peace that the galaxy had enjoyed was fragile, and Raylan knew that with the resurgence of humanity, that peace would shatter. There would be war, fierce and unforgiving. "We've seen the maps," Raylan said, his voice low, filled with a sense of urgency. "We've seen the weapons. Humanity's return won't be easy, but it's necessary. We can't just remain in the shadows. We've waited long enough." Zarn, the soldier from Lorm, nodded. His expression was grim, his hands clenched tightly around the data crystals. "The Arcanans will never accept us. They'll see us as a threat, just like they did before. They won't hesitate to destroy us." "We need to prepare," Raylan said, turning toward the others. The silence that followed was heavy, filled with the weight of the situation. The Xar, who had been watching from the corner of the room, stepped forward. "Preparation won't be enough," he said, his voice a low growl. "The galaxy is not ready for what we've unleashed. The Arcanans will be the first to react, but they won't be the only ones. Others will rise against us." The team fell silent, each person processing the gravity of the situation. The knowledge they had uncovered was dangerous, and with it came the responsibility to wield that power wisely. But in a galaxy ruled by fear and dominance, wisdom was often a luxury that came too late. Raylan turned back to the window, his gaze fixed on the stars. "We can't let fear dictate our actions. If we are to succeed, we must unite, not just as individuals, but as the species we once were." The ship sped through the darkness of space, heading toward the distant planet of Kyrax, a neutral world known for its vast, unclaimed resources. It was the perfect place to begin their rebuilding efforts. With the data crystals in hand, the team planned to gather allies from across the galaxy, races that had been subjugated by the Arcanans, races that still remembered the old stories of humanity's strength. The journey wasn't easy. The ship was constantly on the move, avoiding Arcanan patrols, navigating through uncharted territories, and staying one step ahead of those who would seek to stop them. But every jump through space brought them closer to their goal. Kyrax was a place of possibility, a place where humanity's legacy could be reborn. Upon arriving at Kyrax, Raylan and his team wasted no time. They began their outreach to the planet's inhabitants, a mix of miners, traders, and outcasts who lived in the shadow of the larger, more powerful factions. At first, the people of Kyrax were skeptical. Humanity had been gone for so long, and the galaxy had moved on. But as Raylan showed them the data crystals, the maps, and the technologies they had uncovered, something began to stir in the hearts of the Caraxians. "We were once a powerful species," Rylan said, standing before a crowd of Caraxian leaders. "And we are not gone. We have hidden our strength, our knowledge, for the right time. And that time is now. The galaxy must know that humanity is back, and we are not the same as before. We will rise, not as conquerors, but as leaders, as allies. But we need you. We need your support." The Caraxians listened closely, their eyes flickering with a mix of doubt and hope. But as Rylan continued, something shifted in the room. The stories of humanity's past began to resonate with them. They remembered the strength of the human spirit, the ingenuity that had once led to the rise of Earth's greatest cities, the fire that had pushed them to the stars. Humanity had once been a beacon of hope in the galaxy, and now that beacon was ready to shine again. "We've been waiting for this," one of the Caraxian leaders said, his voice steady. "The galaxy has been dominated by fear and violence for too long. Humanity showed us a better way. If we unite, we can make it happen again." The alliance was born in that moment. The Caraxians pledged their support, offering their resources and their loyalty. The first step toward humanity's resurgence was taken, and Rylan knew that this was only the beginning. They would need more allies, more strength. The galaxy would not yield easily, but they had something now that no one else had: a cause, a legacy, and the will to fight for it. But even as the alliance was formed, a shadow loomed over them. The Arcanans, who had long watched the rise of this new force, would not stand idly by. The first whispers of rebellion against the Arcanan Empire had already begun to spread. And as the news of humanity's resurgence reached the ears of the galaxy's ruling powers, it was clear that the peaceful order the galaxy had known was about to be shattered. The first strike came without warning. The Arcanan fleet, massive and relentless, descended on Kyrax, determined to crush the rebellion before it could take root. But Rylan and his team had prepared for this moment. The battle for Kyrax was only the beginning of humanity's return to power. As the sounds of battle raged outside, Rylan stood tall, his heart burning with the fire of a species that had been forgotten, but was now awake. The resurgence had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. The silence of space was broken by the thunderous roar of the battle. The mighty Arcanan Empire, the largest and most powerful force in the galaxy, had launched a full-scale assault against the newly resurrected human alliance. The clash of empires had begun. It was a battle that had been decades, even centuries, in the making. The Arcanans had never believed that humanity could return. The galaxy had long since forgotten the strength of Earth's people. Now, as humanity fought back, the Arcanans realized their mistake, and they would stop at nothing to erase the threat before it could fully take root. Captain Rylan stood at the bridge of the human flagship, the Legacy. His gaze was fixed on the holographic display showing the approaching Arcanan fleet. The stars around them flickered as ships jumped out of hyperspace, appearing as shadows in the distance. Rylan's fingers tightened around the armrests of his command chair. This wasn't just a battle for Kyrax, it was a battle for humanity's place in the galaxy. If they lost here, everything they had worked for would be wiped away in an instant. "Prepare for combat," Rylan ordered, his voice calm but filled with urgency. "This is the moment we've trained for. Let them know we're not the weak species they think we are." His crew, a diverse group of warriors, engineers, and strategists, moved swiftly to their stations. The atmosphere was tense, the weight of the situation hanging heavy in the air. They had only one chance to make their mark before the Arcanans could launch their full-scale assault. Humanity had spent years hiding in the shadows, gathering allies and resources. But now they were no longer the hunted. They were the hunters. The first wave of Arcanan warships charged forward, their massive forms blotting out the stars. Their sleek, metallic hulls gleamed with the unmistakable power of the galaxy's mightiest empire. They moved with terrifying precision, each ship a well-oiled machine of destruction. But Rylan was ready. He had spent years studying the Arcanan tactics, Learning. Engage the shields, Rylan commanded, his eyes narrowing as the enemy ships closed in. Let's show them what we've learned. The human fleet, a mix of newly constructed ships and salvaged vessels, came to life with a series of coordinated maneuvers. Ryland's flagship, the Legacy, led the charge, its sleek design cutting through the darkness. The energy shields flared to life as the first barrage of Arcanon plasma fire struck, lighting up the space around them in a brilliant flash. The shields held firm, but the force of the impact rattled the crew. "Return fire," Rylan ordered, his voice unwavering. The gunners on the ship's weapon stations fired back, unleashing a barrage of energy pulses toward the oncoming Arcanon fleet. The human ships may not have been as large or advanced as their enemies, but their agility, speed, and tactical brilliance made up for their lack of sheer firepower. The Arcanons retaliated with their own weapons, but the humans were already moving, their ships darting in unpredictable patterns, using the debris fields around Kyrax to their advantage. The Arcanon fleet struggled to adapt to the hit-and-run tactics the humans employed. It wasn't just their technology that made humanity dangerous. It was their ingenuity, their ability to think on their feet and adapt quickly. The battle raged for hours, the stars themselves seeming to tremble as the two forces clashed. Each side suffered casualties, but the human fleet held its ground. As the battle wore on, the Arcanon forces began to show signs of frustration. Their superior numbers and firepower were no longer enough to overwhelm the smaller, more nimble human ships. Ryland's strategy was working. The Arcanons weren't used to being outmaneuvered, and it was starting to show. "We're making progress," Zarn, the soldier from Lorm, said from his post. "They're retreating to the outer edges of the system." Ryland nodded, but he wasn't celebrating yet. He knew the Arcanons wouldn't give up easily. They would regroup, reevaluate, and come back stronger. The battle was far from over. He looked to his left, where the Czar, a hulking figure with a reputation for being a fierce fighter, stood at the weapons console. "What's the status on the ion cannons?" "Ready to fire, Captain," the Czar responded, his voice deep and steady. "Just give the word." Ryland's mind raced as he considered his next move. The Arcanon fleet was regrouping, but they were still vulnerable. They had one opportunity to strike before the Arcanons could reassemble their forces. It was a risky move, but it was their best chance at forcing the enemy to retreat. "Fire the ion cannons," Ryland commanded. "Target their command ship." The Legacy's massive ion cannons powered up, their energy crackling in the air as they charged. The human ships had never used such devastating weapons before, but they had adapted quickly, scavenging whatever they could from old warships. The ion blasts ripped through the Arcanon fleet with terrifying force, the energy waves knocking several Arcanon ships out of formation. Their command ship, the flagship of the Arcanon fleet, took the brunt of the attack, its shields flickering as the ion blast struck. For a moment, there was a pause in the chaos. The Arcanon fleet faltered, their ships scattered and disoriented. It was a brief but crucial moment. Ryland didn't hesitate. "Full assault. All ships, follow my lead." The human fleet surged forward, catching the Arcanons off guard. The surprise attack was too much for the Arcanon fleet to withstand. The command ship, crippled by the ion blast, became the focus of the human assault. Within minutes, the massive ship exploded in a blaze of fire, sending shockwaves through the surrounding fleet. The remaining Arcanon ships, seeing the destruction of their command vessel, hesitated. Some tried to flee, while others attempted to fight back. But the damage had been done. The Arcanon fleet, once so powerful and confident, was now in disarray. Ryland's heart pounded in his chest as he watched the Arcanon forces retreat. It was a hard-fought victory, but it was a victory nonetheless. The galaxy had just witnessed the power of humanity's resurgence, and while the battle had been won, the war was far from over. The Arcanons would return, and when they did, humanity would be ready. As the human fleet gathered around Kyrax, Ryland took a deep breath. This was just the beginning of the clash of empires, and humanity had proven they were not to be underestimated. The galaxy would never be the same again. The universe had been in turmoil for centuries, with powerful empires rising and falling, their influence spreading across the stars like ripples in a cosmic ocean. But no one had anticipated the return of humanity. Once thought to be a forgotten species, scattered and lost to history, Earth's people had come back with a force that even the mightiest galactic empires could not ignore. The dawn of a new era was upon them, and the galaxy would never be the same. Captain Elysia Alvarin stood on the bridge of the Exodus, her gaze fixed on the holographic display in front of her. The human fleet had assembled near the barren world of Arca-7, a once insignificant planet now turned symbol of humanity's return. Elysia, a decorated war hero, had seen much in her life: wars, betrayals, and the collapse of alliances. But nothing had prepared her for the task ahead. The Arcanan Empire, one of the most feared in the galaxy, had launched a full-scale offensive, hoping to crush humanity before they could gain a foothold. The Arcanans were not just fighting to protect their dominance, they were fighting to erase a threat they thought was long gone. "Captain," Lieutenant Thorne said, breaking the silence, "our sensors are picking up incoming ships. The Arcanan fleet is approaching." Elysia's heart skipped a beat. She had known this moment would come. The Arcanans had been relentless in their attempts to subdue the human resurgence, but this time, humanity had prepared. The Exodus, along with its fleet of smaller warships and fighters, was ready for the challenge. Elysia turned to face her crew, her voice calm but resolute. "We've trained for this. Keep your focus, and we'll show them what humanity is capable of." The enemy fleet appeared on the scanners, a massive wall of dark vessels moving toward them with deadly intent. The Arcanans had no intention of negotiating. They wanted humanity eradicated. The battle was inevitable, and Elysia knew it would be a test of everything they had fought for. The first wave of Arcanan ships arrived in full force, their massive hulls gleaming in the cold light of distant stars. Elysia's command center buzzed with activity as the crew prepared for combat. The Exodus's massive energy shields activated, enveloping the ship in a protective bubble of shimmering blue light. The surrounding human fleet did the same, readying their weapons for the impending conflict. "All hands, brace for impact," Elysia called out, gripping the armrests of her chair as the first salvo of Arcanan plasma fire exploded against the human shields. The ship rocked under the force, but the shields held strong. Elysia's mind raced, calculating the best course of action. They had to strike quickly and decisively before the Arcanans could gain the upper hand. "Return fire," Elysia commanded, and the ship's massive cannons fired in unison. A wave of concentrated energy shot toward the Arcanan vessels, striking one of the lid ships directly. The explosion lit up the void, and for a moment, the human fleet held the upper hand. But the Arcanans quickly retaliated, launching a second wave of attacks, their weapons more powerful and precise. "Shields at 70%. The tactical officer reported, his voice trained. "They're targeting our main generators." Elysia's mind raced. The main generators were the heart of the Exodus. If they were destroyed, the ship would be rendered powerless. "We need to protect the generators at all costs," she said, her voice steady. "Bring us about and target their flagships. We're going to give them everything we've got." The Exodus pivoted gracefully, dodging another volley of plasma fire. The ship's guns roared as they unleashed a barrage of destructive energy towards the lead Arcanan ship. The space around them lit up with the intensity of the battle, and the human fleet was engaged in fierce combat with the Arcanans. Despite the odds, Elysia's crew fought with a determination and resilience that came from their years of struggle. Humanity had not just returned. They had come to stay. Hours passed, and the battle raged on, but humanity's resolve was unwavering. The Exodus and its fleet had struck hard, taking down several key Arcanan ships. The tide of the battle had shifted in humanity's favor, but the Arcanan Empire was not going to surrender so easily. They launched a final, desperate assault, sending their most advanced warships directly at the human fleet. "Brace yourselves," Elysia shouted, as the ship trembled under the force of the incoming Arcanan strike. The shields flickered dangerously, and Elysia's heart pounded in her chest. It was all or nothing now. "Activate the emergency thrusters," Elysia ordered. "We need to evade their strike, or we won't survive." The crew scrambled, their focus absolute. With a series of rapid maneuvers, the Exodus and its fleet weaved through the incoming fire, narrowly avoiding destruction. The human ships took advantage of their smaller size and agility, darting between the larger Arcanan vessels, striking them with precision. It was a deadly game of cat and mouse, but humanity was proving their worth. "Target their command ship," Elysia barked. If they could take down the flagship, the rest of the Arcanan fleet would fall into chaos. The Exodus fired once more, and this time, the blast connected, striking the heart of the Arcanan command ship. It exploded in a brilliant flash of light, sending debris scattering across the battlefield. The Arcanan fleet, now leaderless, began to falter. The remaining ships attempted to regroup, but without their command structure, they were scattered and vulnerable. The human fleet took advantage of this disarray, launching a final, overwhelming attack. One by one, the Arcanan ships fell, their massive forms breaking apart as human fighters struck with surgical precision. As the last of the Arcanan ships were destroyed or forced to retreat, a wave of relief washed over Elysia. They had won. Against all odds, humanity had emerged victorious. The Exodus remained afloat, battered but unbroken. It was a symbol of humanity's resilience, of their unwavering determination to rebuild and reclaim their place in the galaxy. Elysia stood on the bridge, her heart still racing from the intensity of the battle. But even as the cheers erupted from her crew, she knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy was vast, and new challenges awaited them. The victory was sweet, but the real work was yet to come. Humanity had risen, and with that rise came a new responsibility. The dawn of a new era had arrived, and it was up to them to ensure it would be one of peace, prosperity, and strength. As the human fleet gathered in formation, preparing to move forward into uncharted space, Elysia turned to her crew, her voice calm but resolute. "We've won today, but this is only the beginning. The galaxy is waiting for us, and we will shape it together." And with that, humanity's new era began.